This is our E36. This is one of my favorite cars we've ever built here at Dyno. But unfortunately, this little fella's seen better days. Ever since then, it's had an M52 sized hole right in its heart. But today we're gonna fix that. We're doing open heart surgery. And while we're at it, we're gonna build the highest horsepower car we've ever built here at Dyno.
What the f***? Are you panicking?
The goal is 500 horsepower, and we've got just the engine to do it. Okay, class, wake up, wake up. Everybody listen up. Today we're learning about how to make power. I'm sure you guys have all been wondering how to make more power in your project car. There are three main ways you make more power. Up first, we have turbocharging. The way a turbocharger works is forced induction. And there's really two main forms of forced induction: turbocharging and supercharging. So supercharging is very similar to turbocharging. We're forcing more air into the engine, but in this case, we're not using the exhaust to do it. We're using the spinning of the engine. Okay, let's move on to the last form of making more power: chemical charging, or nitrous oxide. The way this works is you put it into your engine. The tank here is full of nitrous oxide. It's pressurized, and you run a line from the bottle to your engine. And at a certain temperature, that nitrous oxide breaks into its parts and basically becomes oxygen. Now that we've got that down, we're gonna move on to what we're gonna be doing, which is known as an engine swap. Now, if you're looking to add a turbocharger to your existing engine, that can come with a lot of complications. There's a lot of modifying that'll need to be done, and if it's not a car that is commonly turbocharged, you're gonna have to DIY a lot of stuff. So sometimes it makes more sense to just do a whole dang engine swap. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take the 2JZ, a very known, reliable engine, and put it in our car. So we don't need to worry about adding a turbocharger to this engine to make more power. We just need to worry about getting this engine into our car so that we can make more power.
Whatever, man. I don't need a diagram to have someone tell me what a 2J is. Do you even know what 2J stands for? Probably not.
This is our 2JZ, and if it looks familiar, that's because we've had this engine on this channel before. Jerry and I tore this 2JZ down to look at what makes the 2JZ so robust and reliable. Once we took this engine apart for that episode, we had it rebuilt by Dave over at 6-Pin. Everything in this engine is built for longevity and can handle a lot of performance. So I'm very excited to get this thing into the E36 and get that thing ripping again. So there's only a few things we really need to do. We gotta get the engine ready for the car, we gotta get the car ready for the engine, and then we gotta marry them together. It's only 3 steps. This should take no time. All right, so we're just taking some stuff out of the engine bay that doesn't need to be here anymore, like some of the air conditioning stuff, just random odds and ends. Clean this thing up, give our 2JZ a nice, tidy new home. So now I got it soaking in some degreaser. Now we're about to go hose it off, clean this thing up before we put that nice new engine in. So while that dries, I'm gonna start to get the engine ready for the car. First thing I'm gonna do is work on getting our new fuel rail and fuel injectors installed, which means taking off the stock throttle body, removing some of these odds and ends to get down to the fuel rail, pop that sucker out, put the new stuff on. Easy. We're gonna kind of divide and conquer, so I'm gonna try to get the engine ready, and he's got a fuel pump that's gonna go into the car to supply this thing with all the juice it needs. And then, okay, I thought I was gonna say it's about time to throw it in, but there's a lot that needs to happen before we're ready for that.
So we've got to upgrade our fuel pump, and with that, I've got one from Dyno here. It flows 420 liters per hour. This car came with a straight 6 naturally aspirated. This is going to be a straight 6 turbocharged, and it's just going to be begging for fuel. So this one's going to just pump more fuel. Oh man, it is dirty.
Absolute perfection.
That was really easy. So let's hope that trend continues. So we got the fuel pump out, and this is what the fuel pump assembly looks like. It's a relatively easy install, which is great. We've got our Dyno pump, and Radium actually makes this really cool adapter that slides over, clamps down, and you can just slip it in and it clicks into the factory location. Other than that, just crimp these wires on, click it all back together and put it in. And there you go. That's the complete unit. Pretty cool. It's all just gonna fit in there, and it's gonna be enough fuel to pump into our 2J. Leave it to the Germans to over-engineer it, so let's drop it in. Finito. So we got the throttle body out of our 2J, and these guys are unique. They're drive-by wire and drive-by cable, and that sucks. All I want is drive-by cable because I know that's what's gonna work the whole time, so let's get it deleted. So literally all we're gonna do is take these gears out because we don't need them anymore. Then we're gonna put this wedge into the throttle body to fill up the dead zone, and you're all good. And it's that easy. Now you have a drive-by cable 2J.
Okay, so I gotta pop these crankcase vent tube things out and plug them. They come with the kit, the little plugs, so I just gotta wrench these out a little bit, break them free like that, and give them a little bit of leverage. All right, with those plugs in place, I can drop the mounting plate in and then the coil packs in, and then we'll be good to go. And just like that, we've got a pretty trick ignition system. Install's done. We've got R35 GDI coil packs on this 2JZ. I just threw the throttle body back on. Now I'm going to pull out these crankcase vents and replace them with Radium's press-in crankcase vents just to prepare for our catch can setup. They're trick little pieces that basically pop into these factory ports and give us A-N lines out so we can run those right to our catch can. So I just gotta yank these out. Those fittings are in the freezer, shrinking down so they'll pop in a little easier. Dessert. Well, these are frozen, so they're shrunk as small as they can be. It's still a press fit, so really you need to be able to tap these in with a hammer, and I don't have much hammer space with the intake manifold here, so gotta take it off. Okay, just like that, we got some AN10 fittings coming out of the valve covers. Those will go to our catch can. This engine's looking cooler by the minute. Okay, up next I'm gonna start working on actually mounting our Artec exhaust manifold and turbo from Garrett. It's got two V-bands, one for the turbo, Garrett 3576, which should flow plenty of air for our power numbers and beyond. What's really nice about this manifold is that it comes with a pre-made heat shield for the thing. He's cold. Here you go, little buddy. So you want to keep heat where it's supposed to be and not everywhere else. So this will help us do that. Okay, now I'm gonna throw on our wastegate. This is a TurboSmart 45 millimeter. V-band mounts in and out. So it goes right on the top here on this manifold. And we can clock it around however makes the most sense when we get that far. Eventually, this dump tube from the wastegate is gonna go out the hood, which is pretty cool. I'm gonna put that on there, then I'll put the turbo on, then we can start thinking about routing oil and coolant to the turbo and coolant to the wastegate.
Everybody got sound effects. So to help with some of the cooling, we're gonna go ahead and use an external oil cooler. For that, we're gonna need this block adapter to be put onto the motor and take off the old one. Easy work.
I'm still working on the engine. I'm about ready to install this new Radium fuel rail and fuel pressure regulator.
All right, so it's time to put the injectors on. These are from Works. These are 2200 cc injectors, which is more than enough fuel. I'm gonna cram this in the Radium fuel rail and then put that on the motor over there. And the reason you're gonna want more fuel is because we're gonna be cramming more air. And more air, you need more fuel, more power. That was easy.
I think I just finished the last coolant line for the turbo.
Perfect.
So we just gotta get that drain extender and we're in business. All right, it is finally time to get the engine off the stand, onto the ground, and get the transmission and the clutch and flywheel installed. For that, we're gonna be using the BMW ZF transmission that was already in the car. And we've got a cool Collins adapter kit to mate the 2JZ to the BMW transmission. So in case you're wondering, an adapter plate does exactly what it says it does. You can bolt to an engine and a transmission that don't naturally match up. And at this point, they make adapter plates like these for pretty much every popular combo. Obviously, the 2JZ is a hugely popular engine, and the BMW ZF is also very popular in its own right. Another nice feature of the Collins adapter kit is that it does away with the factory starter mounting bolts, which go inside the transmission. So you have to take the transmission off to take the starter off on the 2JZ, which is insane. So the Collins adapter plate comes with these studs, so you get to replace those bolts with studs, and you just have to drill out the threads on your 2JZ starter. Then you can chuck it on those studs and use some nuts and take your starter out whenever you damn well please. All right, so we've knocked in the pilot bushing adapter, and now we're putting on the flywheel. All this is supplied by Collins, and then this will basically be the last bit of the Collins kit. Then it's up to us to put a clutch on this thing and our transmission. And a nice donut yellow pressure plate. This is basically the spring that engages the clutch to the flywheel. When you hit your throwout bearing, flips these springs down and releases. So now this just has to go on there. The first things I need to do are just clean off this friction surface, get all the oils off of it, and then we can throw it on there, bolt it down, and then our clutch setup is complete. Well, that's a problem.
No.
Yep.
You're lying.
No, I'm not. This is the wrong pressure plate.
No, it ain't.
Yes, it is. Okay, so somehow we've got the wrong size pressure plate, which is going to make installing it a bit of a problem. Okay, back to the drawing board. Let's see what we got and what we actually need. And the pressure plate. I guess I should clean this first. Okay, so in front of me, I've got a BMW ZF 5-speed transmission. And this is the transmission that we put in the E36 when we manual swapped it forever ago. This just happens to be a pretty easy to acquire, pretty small, pretty light, and pretty strong manual transmission. So people use these in a lot of things that aren't necessarily BMWs. Just what the doctor ordered, it's everything we need, and we already had it. Now I just gotta put it together. So throwout bearing's about to go in, a little dab of grease, pop her on there. It's often quite annoying trying to get a transmission onto the back of the engine, especially if you're doing it by yourself. So I'm gonna do a little trick here that should make things a lot easier. I've just got a couple random bolts that are the same thread pitch and diameter as the bell housing bolts. So I'm gonna cut the heads off of them so that the transmission can slip right over them and use them as dowels. And this should make throwing a transmission on very easy. Okay, now with those there, we can just slip the transmission on and jiggle the output shaft a little bit to move the input shaft, get our splines to line up, and this sucker should slide right on. Okay, engine, transmission, ready for car. Just like that, it's time for step 3, marriage. So right now we've got the car jacked up a little bit so we can see underneath because we still have the transmission mount cross member in place on the car. If we can do it with the cross member in place, great. If not, it's gotta come out. It's just so damn close right here, and the problem is what it's super close to is very sharp. Yeah, it's that perfect like puncture zone.
Oh, good.
Which I could see grinding those off. I could also see just dropping the subframe. Here, do you want to just yank on it with this while I push on it from there?
Ever drop the subframe?
Drop the subframe? All right.
Okay, we have now dropped the subframe about an inch to give us some more room to get the oil pan over it. Should be all we need, hopefully. Push in, Hubbard. Looking good. My engine mount is pretty well lined up.
So close. I'm right there.
All right, you don't have to ham it up over there.
What the f***? Are you panicking?
I was trying to pull it more back and it went.
Okay, and we are resting in the car. Okay, the engine's in there. Now we just gotta mount it and stuff. It's a monumental moment in any engine swap when you get to put the crane away. And we're at that point. The engine is in the car, the engine mounts are bolted down, Heber's finishing up right now, and the transmission mounts are in and tight, so now it's on to all the rest of the stuff. But first, I'm putting the crane away. Okay, I've got the radiator and intercooler loosely mounted, so up next I'm gonna be working on mounting the oil cooler right in front of the intercooler. While I'm doing that, Heber's working on installing a power steering kit from Chase Bays. It's got a nice reservoir, a nice cooler. It should clean up the engine bay a little bit and give us good power steering, which will be important. Okay, so I'm bending up some brackets to mount our oil cooler, basically off of the intercooler, just with some random 1-inch bar I've got laying around, just some scraps. There are certainly cleaner ways to do this, but this is what we got laying around, and I'm in a bit of a hurry. So I'm just gonna bend these, and we should be able to mount the oil cooler fairly sturdily. Well, the oil cooler is nicely mounted to the intercooler, but the intercooler leaves a bit to be desired. It'll tighten up with fittings on it and tubes and stuff. All right, most of the time when you're switching over to a standalone ECU, you'll often have to add an intake air temp sensor, depending on what your car already has and what the ECU wants to use. So I need to add a bung to our charge piping near the throttle body for an intake air temp sensor. And that lets the ECU know what temperature the air coming into the engine actually is. So you want to put it pretty close to the throttle body, so I'm doing that. And that's one of the sensors that the ECU uses to know what's going on in the engine and make sure that the engine's safe and making as much power as it's supposed to. Okay, the bung is on there. It's not exactly perfect or pretty, but it is exactly on there. And that's really what I was after. So this is done. All right, we're back at it. I just got some new shifter bushings, so I'm about ready to install the shifter carrier. Then I can install the shifter. There go my new bushings. Driveline Inc. came out yesterday and measured for our drive shaft, so they're busy making us a drive shaft. We are waiting on a handful of odds and ends to tie up a bunch of loose ends, but I think we're gonna be able to make some pretty serious progress today, which is good because we got a lot of progress to make. We have the wiring harness pretty much totally installed on the engine, so now I gotta feed it through the firewall into the cab and install our ECU. Okay, so now we're inside the car and I'm working on mounting our digital dash from Link that goes with our ECU, plugs and plays with the ECU and shows us all of the engine vitals. This is basically an all-in-one gauge, like all-in-one. Pretty much everything that the ECU can see, you can see through this. So you can monitor all of your engine vitals, your oil pressure, temperature, fuel pressure, temperatures of everything. Okay, so I whipped up some quick brackets to mount the digital dash in here. So assuming everything fits, should be a pretty easy install. See if we can get it done. Okay, so our digital dash is mounted. I haven't fully tightened everything down, but the mounting is done and it fits and it looks pretty good. So I'm happy with that. Now we got to do the less fun parts, which is the wires. The digital dash will give us a view of pretty much any parameter we want with the engine, but the real star of the show is the ECU. So an ECU gives you control over the ignition timing, over, you know, your fuel injectors and how big they can be, and everything going on under the hood, and those are the things that determine how much power an engine makes. So with the control you get from an ECU, you can tune that sucker up, or some smart guy on a dyno can, and make you as much power as the parts you have will allow. And I can't wait to see north of 500. All right, so right now I'm working on installing our catch can from Radium. I am gonna try to make a little panel to mount off of these existing brackets, and I think it should just clear our intercooler tubing and everything else. Looking at this engine bay, you might think, hey, over there's a really good spot. There's plenty of room right over there. And I was tempted to put it there, but generally speaking, when you're mounting a catch can, you want to mount it on the intake side of the engine, just to be as far away as possible from the hot exhaust, the turbo, the manifold, everything like that, because the vapors that are in here are air and a little bit of fuel and oil and things that are flammable. So if you ever spring a leak from your catch can, you don't want it to leak onto your super hot exhaust, lest you catch on fire. So I'm gonna do a little extra work and put it over here just to be safe. Okay, break these edges a little bit and we'll install this piece of shit. Okay, catch can's mounted, pretty quick and easy. Just use some old, no longer used, I hope, stock brackets. Hopefully this doesn't get in the way of anything else that we gotta do. Now we gotta measure some lines, order some materials to make some lines, and then make a bunch of lines. Jimmy said he would do it.
Look, I don't know anything about no goddamn lines. I don't
You
know
don't?
no goddamn 2J and a goddamn BMW.
Dude,
It's
2J.
sacrilege.
Jimmy and Job, huh? Okay, we are getting close to starting this thing. We've got a lot of stuff done, buttoning up some little stuff. I'm wiring up the radiator fan and the oil cooler fan at the moment.
I've got some random electrical things, just kind of buttoning things up. Again, it's all the loose ends that we're trying to tackle right now. Honestly, we should be able to at least key it on and see if something fries.
Yep, yeah, I think we might get to turn a key today. We just gotta button a bunch of stuff up. Did you get the shifter in?
Halfway in.
Okay, maybe I'll finish it. Okay, our drive shaft is here and it is installed. Driveline Inc. whipped this up really quick, looks real nice. Should transmit all the power from the transmission to the diff, which is what a drive shaft does, so that's great. Adam is currently working on our chassis mount shifter. That just showed up today. Looks like a really nice bit of kit and it should feel great once it's all installed. We've got it mounted to the chassis, but now we've got to shorten our selector rod, the thing that the bottom of the shifter connects to the transmission via. That needs to be shorter now, so we'll have to cut it up, take a little piece out of it, weld it back together. No big deal, that should feel great. Oh, baby. Oh, hey, thanks, man.
Yeah, dude. What's going on?
Oh, I have no idea. No, we're close. We're close. There's a lot of stuff going on, but we are very close. We've got some coolant stuff left to tie up, but let's leave that to the side for now. We're very close to first fire up, which I think we'll do without any coolant in it. It's got oil. So Adam's in there playing with the ECU, trying to get it fired up, load up the base map. I think really all the wiring is in a place where it can start. It should be startable right now. I'm just kind of coming to terms with that as I'm saying that to you, which is always sort of a nerve-wracking time, just running through all the things you may not have done or tightened.
Yeah.
So I should probably give everything a once-over, and then I think we'll try to fire this thing up soon. We do need to get some fuel. It's really hard to see this gauge. Do you want to? Are you sure it's not like priming at all?
I can't hear, but let's check.
I feel like you should be able to hear it, but I can see the gauge now. Yeah. Nothing. Okay, so it seems like we don't have spark. I can smell a little fuel. We've got fuel pressure, so reasonable to think that we do have fuel. We definitely have air. I believe we have compression, but I don't think we have spark. No questions. Yeah, so what we're gonna do right now to find out whether or not we have spark is a very simple test that you can do on most cars. We're just taking the coil pack off cylinder 1. We're gonna leave it plugged in. We've got a spare spark plug that Nolan is currently putting into the coil pack. Then we'll ground out the threads of the spark plug somewhere in the engine bay, and then Adam will crank it. And if we do have spark, that plug will be sparking. There's a lot of volts running through coil packs. It's one of the few spots on a car that can really zap you. So don't hold it. Yeah, I mean, you can do it, but when you get bit by it, you don't like it. Nay, spark. No spark, but I smell fuel. Okay, well, sometimes projects just don't run, and that's when you give up. So that's gonna do it for us. Thanks for watching.
All right, so we tested it the old-fashioned way, which is cranking the motor over, but what's really cool about Link ECU or any aftermarket, a lot of them, you could just go into the computer itself and then just tell it to spark, tell it to prime fuel, all of that, without having to keep turning that over and messing up the starter itself. So we've got spark, but now we gotta figure out why the computer's not telling it to spark when we want it to spark. This thing is smart, but sometimes too smart.
I'm telling you, you just gotta check the box that says I need spark.
To be fair, I haven't checked that box, so it's probably on me. So right now, I'm trying to get Link to remote in to see if all the parameters we have set are correct. We're having a little bit of problems starting the motor, but I'm pretty sure it's just a couple clicks away, and that's really it, because the wiring is good, and everything else looks good. So let's see.
Did you already set the base fuel pressure, I'm assuming?
No, I have no idea what it should be at. Give it a crack. Let's see what happens.
So our ignition issue just ended up being a setting that we had set wrong in the ECU software, which is a pretty simple fix. Now the car runs. So all we have to do is get an exhaust made over at Borla, put some fluids in this thing, and take it to the dyno to see if this is actually the highest horsepower car we've ever built, or just a bunch of money pretty poorly spent.
All right, so while the E36 is getting a new exhaust from today's sponsor, Borla, we figured it'd be fun to check out a car built by our friend and professional drifter, Matt Field. Matt, what is this?
So this is my demo car. It's basically a stock vet with a Texas speed engine and a sequential gearbox and a Borla attack system.
Is there any chance that maybe we could drive it a little?
Have at it, boys.
Nolan, let's get in before he changes his mind. For almost 50 years, Borla has been the go-to exhaust for all drivers around the world. The patented technologies give you perfect sound balance and cutting-edge performance with no compromises. It's loud as hell on the track, but quiet and refined at home. Plus, there's no annoying drone. That's huge. Each system is manufactured in Johnson City, Tennessee, using the highest quality stainless steel. With many different tips, finishes, and other customization options, Borla helps tailor an exhaust system that best fits your unique style and sound. So if you want state-of-the-art performance, reliability, and the best damn sound out of your car, get a Borla exhaust today. To learn more, click the link below.
All right, we are getting this thing strapped to the dyno because we're gonna try to make this our highest horsepower car. Danny said that we should probably go with 100 octanes. We're gonna chuck it in there and see what it makes. I'm really hoping for 550 or 600. Danny, thoughts?
I'd like to see 600.
600 is what he says, so let's see if that's what we get. All right, so we got a couple runs in. Honestly, I'm getting really, really excited. The numbers are going up and this thing sounds awesome. So, still gonna hit some keys on the keyboard and hopefully we get that 600 mark. If not 550, I'd be pretty happy with. But honestly, the sound this thing makes just makes me smile. All right, so we just did one of our final runs and this thing sounds so sick. We hit 575, but I think there's a little bit more room. Super happy with that. It is really healthy, it sounds good. Sweet, there it is, 603. Highest horsepower donut, time to hit the track, let's go.
Okay, first time out in the reborn E36. Let's see how she feels. It's got 3 times the power it used to have, so it's gonna feel a little different. Sounds cool. got more power. So I guess I'm warmed up. Let's take it to the track, see how it does.
All right, so we've got the 2J in the E36. It is now our highest horsepower car. Oh boy! My car used to be our highest horsepower car, our most powerful car in our fleet. Now we're gonna see how they stack up. If the 2J swap was worth it, I think so. But man, it's just so cool to see two of our favorite cars out here. Looks like Adam is having some issues already.
What the I think I literally dropped the transmission back there. We just can't win. But the 2J is doing great. Go, Zach! I gotta fix this.
Dude, that was sick as hell.
Good, it sounds good.
So the transmission has fallen out of high Z.
There's definitely something under the car. We're gonna go help. It's really hot.
We got a rescue.
What happened?
Drive shaft?
I think the transmission fell out. I don't know if that's actually what happened, but the whole shifter is like...
Oh, no, the shifter broke.
Huh?
I think the shifter broke.
Yeah, there's something just dangling down there.
You just can't win. The 2J sounded sick though when it drove away into the sunset.
In classic donut fashion, we came out here to do one thing, but have opened a completely different can of worms now. Let's watch some steezy drift footage of the E36.
Maybe?
Joby's out on track in the E36. It sounds really good. Here it goes!
Go! Hey!
Oh,
Joby!
Oh, that does.
It's getting hot.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
It's hot.
No, we gotta pull in and cool down. We're like extremely hot.
All right, we got half a lap in.
It is still our highest horsepower car.
It still is.
We still made the power, and it made all the noises. We'll fix it and break it again.
Sounds
Yay.
good. Sounds good.
Well, holy crap. The E36 lives again. And this time it's got a 2JZ in its face. And not only did we break the 500 horsepower mark, but we also broke the 600 horsepower mark. This car is an absolute handful. It's got over 3 times the power it had before, and I'm having so much fun driving it. I got a little bit of learning to do, but this is gonna be a fun way to learn. So thank you guys for watching this build. I hope you had as much fun watching it as I had doing it. Now, I've got some tires left to burn. Where'd I put the key? Can we review the tape? Where did I throw the key? Did I throw it?